Group's Environmental Director, Mrs. Roberta Kerr. The HAZCAM Group from the University of Alberta is the 1989 recipient in the educational category. The awards committee was impressed with the outreach program of this group of academics who traveled the province teaching others how to deal with hazardous materials. Dr. Lois Brown and Mr. Gordon Weir are here on behalf of HAZCAM. And the industrial category this year was presented to Hewitt Oil of Calgary for their community work near the company's gas plant in the county of Parkland. The people behind Hewitt Oil's Neighbor First policy are the Hewitt family, Tom Hewitt Sr. and his sons, Tom and Harold. Mr. Speaker, these are the 1989 recipients of the Alberta Environment Awards.
Presenting petitions.
Please, member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to present a petition signed by over 2,000 Albertans, including many from the Alberta Council on Aging and the Multiple Sclerosis Society, to urge the government to increase support for home care services, especially for those under the age of 65.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give oral notice of my intention to move following the completion of routine orders and before calling orders of the day, and pursuant to Standing Order 40, the following motion. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta express its shock at the violent actions that were taken in Beijing of the People's Republic of China and the extensive injury and loss of life that resulted from it, and respectfully request the Governor and government of our sister province of Heilongjiang, with which we have had a special relationship for nearly a decade in the areas of trade, investment, culture, science and technology, medicine, sports, and others, take all possible steps to prevent any similar actions in Heilongjiang and through his good offices in other parts of the People's Republic of China.
Thank you. Member for Edmonton Glengarry? No, thank you. Notice of motion. Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Official Opposition Caucus, I too would like to give oral notice under the provisions of Standing Order number 40 to pursue with unanimous consent after question period a discussion on the following motion, which is similar but still different from the one just presented by the government, Mr. Speaker. It reads, be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly deplores the excessive violence used to put down the popular uprising in China, urges the Government of Alberta to review its bilateral agreements with the People's Republic of China in light of these events, urges the Government of Canada to use all diplomatic means to pressure Chinese authorities to stop the violence and respect human rights, and expresses its sympathy to Chinese citizens studying and working in Alberta and to Albertans of Chinese descent who have relatives and friends in that country. And I'll send you a copy of that motion, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give oral notice of my intention to move following the completion of routine orders and before the calling of orders of the day, pursuant to Standing Order 40, the following motion. Be it resolved that the Government of Alberta immediately expresses to its counterpart in our sister province of Heilongjiang, China, our province's revulsion and anger over the recent massacre in Beijing.
Thank you. Motion to the chair, please, from all three parties so the chair can review. Thank you.
Introduction of bills.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill number 201, the Code of Ethics and Conduct Act. Mr. Speaker, the bill sets out a series of conflict of interest guidelines covering MLAs, heads of Crown corporations, executive staff members, and cabinet ministers, as well as establishes post-employment guidelines for such persons. For example, a cabinet minister would not be eligible for employment in the public service for 2 years following his vacating his cabinet seat, and thereafter only if the position for which he was applying was the subject of an open public competition.
The honourable member for Edmonton Norwood has moved first reading of Bill 201, Code of Ethics and Conduct Act. All those members willing to give assent to first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 201, Code of Ethics and Conduct Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Martin, is now read a first time.
The chair would like to direct the House that perhaps in the introduction of these bills that we could go through in numerical order, and then that would allow a faster flow of the business of the afternoon, and would also keep other members from having to jump up and down a number of times for their exercise this week. Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill, the Environment Impact Assessment Act. The purpose of this bill is to provide for environmental impact assessments which are comprehensive in scale, contains guidelines for the types of studies to be done, provides for full public hearings by the Environment Council of Alberta, including intervenor funding. It leaves decision-making authority in the hands of the government, but ensures that alternatives are considered and that people have voice. Where this bill differs from others that are similar, it follows a very formal consultation process with environmental groups and others in the province.
The honourable member for Edmonton Jasper Place has moved first reading to Bill 202, being the bill, the Environmental Impact Assessment Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 202, Environmental Impact Assessment Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. McGuinness, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce for first reading Bill 203, titled Freedom of Information and Protection of Personal Privacy Act. The bill is intended to open up for Albertans access to information at every level of government, that is, the provincial, municipal, and all aspects of commissions or independent agencies governed by either the municipal or the provincial governments. Also that there would be a provision whereby independent review would take place on decisions to withhold information, and finally that with respect to personal information that there would be protection, privacy for that personal information.
Thank you. The honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry has moved first reading to Bill 203, Freedom of Information and Protection of Personal Privacy Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. It seems to be carried by a fairly slim majority.
Bill 203, Freedom of Information and Protection of Personal Privacy Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Decor, is now read a first time.
Member for Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleague, the honourable member for Edmonton Kingsway, I request leave to introduce a bill number 204, being an act to amend the Auditor General Act. Mr. Speaker, if passed, this act would ensure that the Auditor General had sufficient authority to properly review and monitor the ongoing financial interests of the Crown. It would give the Auditor General the mandate to review and monitor organizations and corporations controlled by the Alberta government.
The honourable member for Calgary Mountain View, on behalf of the member for Edmonton Kingsway, has moved first reading to Bill 204, an act to amend the Auditor General Act. Those members willing to give consent to first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 204, an act to amend the Auditor General Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. McEachern, is now read the first time.
Edmonton Avonmore.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 205, an act to provide for equal pay for work of equal value. This act will remove systemic gender bias from wage practices in both the public and private sectors, and would go some way to reduce the economic inequities experienced by women, reduce the poverty which women experience, and deliver some measure of justice to the women of this province.
The honourable member for Edmonton Avonmore has moved first reading of Bill 205, an act to provide for equal pay for work of equal value. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 205, an act to provide for equal pay for work of equal value, introduced by the honourable member Ms. Lang, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 206, being the Environmental Assessment Act. This bill will provide for public hearings in the environmental assessment process, will place in legislation the terms of reference for the environmental impact assessment process, and will provide for the review of this process by an independent environmental assessment board.
The honourable member for Edmonton Meadowlark has moved first reading of Bill 206, Environmental Assessment Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 206, Environmental Assessment Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Mitchell, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce for first reading Bill 207, the Alberta Primary Health Care Trust Fund Act. This act would improve the health status of Albertans, Mr. Speaker, by the designation of funding for special projects aimed at evaluating present health care services and researching alternative means of delivery.
The honourable member for Edmonton Centre has moved first reading of Bill 207, Alberta Primary Health Care Trust Fund Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 207, Alberta Primary Health Care Trust Fund Act, introduced by the honourable member Reverend Mr. Roberts, is now read a first time.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill titled the Alberta Farm Security Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill would stop any foreclosures on farmsteads or farmland until an independent board had assessed whether or not the foreclosure or the lack of debt was due to the fault of the farmer or the conditions beyond his or her control.
The honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon has moved first reading of Bill 208, Alberta Farm Security Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 208, Alberta Farm Security Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Taylor, is now read a first time.
Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Auditor General Act. This act would strengthen the role of Auditor General. It would give the Auditor General authority to make operational audits and to comment on the value and effectiveness of government programs. It would give the Auditor General the authority to audit all corporations in which the government holds over 50% of the shares, and it would increase the independence of the Auditor General by changing the Auditor General's term of office from 8 to 10 years and by removing the power of reappointment.
The honourable member for Calgary Buffalo has moved first reading of Bill 209, an act to amend the Auditor General Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 209, an act to amend the Auditor General Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time.
Member for Olds Didsbury.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 210, a bill being an act to amend the Limitations of Actions Act. This bill will have particular significance to the very young children of this province.
The honourable member for Olds Didsbury has moved first reading of Bill 210, an act to amend the Limitations of Actions Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 210, an act to amend the Limitations of Actions Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Brassard, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill, the Act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act. The bill, Mr. Speaker, would create the Office of Independent Workers Advocates to assist workers in preparing and presenting claims before the Workers' Compensation Board and to allow for the establishment of a truly independent appeals commission.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading of a bill, an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 211, an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Wickman, is now read a first time.
Okay. Member for Old Didsbury.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, member for Redwater Andrew, I beg leave to introduce Bill number 212, an act to amend the Surface Rights Act.
The honourable member for Old Didsbury, on behalf of the member for Redwater Andrew, has moved first reading of Bill 212, an act to amend the Surface Rights Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 212, an act to amend the Surface Rights Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Zaruski, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill 213, being the Quality Child Daycare Standards Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill will provide the necessary standards for personnel training, for a process of parent monitoring at all centres, and for a requirement for checking for any convictions against staff members or applicants for staff positions.
The honourable member for Edmonton Goldbar has moved first reading of Bill 213, Quality Child Daycare Standards Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 213, Quality Child Daycare Standards Act, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 214, an act to amend the Labour Relations Code. Mr. Speaker, when passed, this act would move to reduce the incidence of violence on picket line occurrences and the resulting injuries by prohibiting the use of strikebreakers during an industrial dispute.
The honourable member for Edmonton Belmont has moved first reading of Bill 214, an act to amend the Labour Relations Code. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 214, an act to amend the Labour Relations Code, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Sigurdsson, is now read a first time.
Member for Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill, Bill number 215, being the Government Open Contract Act. This bill would require that the government make available to the public details about the various contracts into which the government enters.
The honourable member for Calgary Northwest has moved first reading of Bill 215, Government Open Contract Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 215, Government Open Contract Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Brusiker, is now read a first time.
Member for Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 216, the Public Service Pay Equity Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill would require government to implement pay equity in the public service so that employees of government will be paid equitably for their services regardless of their gender. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary McKnight has moved first reading of Bill 216, Public Service Pay Equity Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 216, Public Service Pay Equity Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mrs. Gagnon, is now read a first time.
Member for Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill, Bill 217, an act to amend the Marketing of Agricultural Products Act. The intention of this bill is to introduce a very basic democratic principle into the establishment of producer marketing groups that would require a plebiscite be held endorsed by producers of a particular commodity, making decisions, producer decisions instead of political ones.
The honourable member for Vegreville has moved first reading of Bill 217, an act to amend the Marketing of Agricultural Products Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 217, an act to amend the Marketing of Agricultural Products Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Fox, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to move Bill number 219, standing in my name. Motion is to introduce the bill being the Motor Vehicle Sales Act. This is consumer legislation, Mr. Speaker, that would require the sellers of automobiles to display the prices.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona has moved first reading of Bill 219, Motor Vehicle Sales Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 219, Motor Vehicle Sales Act, introduced by the Honourable Mr. Wright, is now read a first time.
Okay. The honourable member for Panoka-Rimby.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 220, the Instructional Materials Production Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill provides for establishing a fund which will be utilized in financing the development, production, and marketing of learning materials in the province.
The honourable member for Panoka-Rimby has moved first reading of Bill 220, Instructional Materials Production Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 220, Instructional Materials Production Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Johnson, is now read a first time.
Member for Banff Cochrane.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 221, the Children's Access Rights Enforcement Act. Mr. Speaker, the intent of this bill is to provide a remedy through the courts in the event of marriage breakdown in favor of a non-custodial parent who is denied access by a custodial parent where an access order is in force.
The honourable member for Banff Cochrane has moved first reading of Bill 221, Children's Access Rights Enforcement Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 221, Children's Access Rights Enforcement Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Evans, is now read a first time.
Member for Calgary-Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Individual Rights Protection Act. This bill will introduce procedures to reduce patronage in the appointment of the chairman of the Alberta Human Rights Commission by providing for appointment upon the recommendation of the Legislative Assembly, and will further make the Commission responsible directly to the Assembly rather than to the Minister of Labour.
The honourable member for Calgary-Buffalo has moved first reading of Bill 222, an act to amend the Individuals' Rights Protection Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 222, an act to amend the Individual Rights Protection Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time.
Member for Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 223, being an act to amend the Emblems of Alberta Act. Mr. Speaker, if this bill is passed, it would make the bighorn sheep the official mammal of Alberta.
The honourable member for Lacombe has moved first reading of Bill 223, an act to amend the Emblems of Alberta Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 223, an act to amend the Emblems of Alberta Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Moore, is now read a first time.
Member for Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Alberta Bill of Rights. The bill would amend Chapter A16 of the Revised Statutes of Alberta 1980, giving every person the right to a healthy environment and to its protection, and to the protection of the living species inhabiting it. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary McKnight has moved first reading of Bill 224, an act to amend the Alberta Bill of Rights. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 224, an act to amend the Alberta Bill of Rights, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Gagnon, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Avonmore.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 225, an act to amend the Individual Rights Protection Act. This act would make discrimination based on sexual orientation or mental disability unlawful.
The honourable member for Edmonton Avonmore has moved first reading of Bill 225, an act to amend the Individuals' Rights Protection Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 225, an act to amend the Individual Rights Protection Act, introduced by the honourable member Ms. Lang, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill, Bill 226, Quality Child Daycare Training and Standards Act. This is an act to ensure the safety and development of children in child care centres by setting high-quality training standards for child care workers.
The honourable member for Edmonton Calder has moved first reading of Bill 226, Quality Child Daycare Training and Standards Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 226, Quality Child Daycare Training and Standards Act, introduced by the honourable member Ms. Melsness, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce to the Assembly for first reading Bill 227, an act to amend the Local Authorities Election Act. If passed, it would permit non-management level civic employees to exercise the democratic rights evidently available to most other citizens by allowing them to run for public office, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Edmonton Highlands has moved first reading of Bill 227, an act to amend the Local Authorities Election Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 227, an act to amend the Local Authorities Election Act, introduced by the honourable member Ms. Barrett, is now read a first time.
I request to introduce a bill, Bill 228, an act to amend the Students' Finance Act. This bill, if passed, would double the number of student representatives on the Student Finance Board from 2 to 4, and more importantly, would ensure that those representatives are chosen by student organizations in this province themselves, rather than the current practice of being patronage appointees.
Member for Edmonton Millwoods has moved first reading of Bill 228, an act to amend the Students' Finance Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 228, an act to amend the Students' Finance Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Gibault, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill 229, a Community Health Clinic Act. This act would establish non-profit community health clinics with providers on a salary to improve Albertans' access to health care at lower cost than institutional care and promote preventative health care practices.
The member for Edmonton Centre has moved first reading of Bill 229, Community Health Clinic Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 229, Community Health Clinic Act, introduced by the Honourable Member, Reverend Mr. Roberts, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Metal Act.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 230, being the Recycling Act. This bill will provide for an ongoing and broadly based toxic waste roundup program and for a curbside recycling program for all communities in this province with populations over 200.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Meadowlark has moved first reading of Bill 230, the Recycling Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 230, Recycling Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Mitchell, is now read a first time.
Member for Red Deer North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill number 231, which is the Alberta Space Agency Act. This bill would initiate the founding of a specific agency which would have the mandate of identifying and coordinating opportunities for Albertans in the research and development of pharmaceuticals, special alloys, and a host of other high-tech products that can only be developed at zero gravity.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer North has moved first reading of Bill 231, Space Agencies Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 231, Space Agencies Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Day, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill, an act to amend the Local Authorities Election Act. This bill would enable municipalities to approve bylaws to allow for a tax credit system for candidates in municipal and school board elections, similar to the provincial scheme.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading of Bill 232, an act to amend the Local Authorities Act, Election Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 232, an act to amend the Local Authorities Election Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Wickman, is now read a first time.
Member for Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce a bill, present a bill called the Consumer Advocate Act, Bill number 234. This bill, if passed, Mr. Speaker, would supply an advocate at government expense where it was decided by a board to do so for disputes between consumers and suppliers, also to represent consumers before any regulatory interests, and also commence legal proceedings, including against the Crown if necessary, on behalf of a consumer or consumers group.
The Honourable Member for Westlock Sturgeon has moved first reading of Bill 234, Consumer Advocate Act. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 234, Consumer Advocate Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Taylor, is now read a first time.
Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 235, the Freedom of Information and Personal Privacy Act. This act would provide Albertans with greater access to government information, and it would also give Albertans more protection against the disclosure of personal information in government records.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn has moved first reading of Bill 235, Freedom of Information and Personal Privacy Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 235, Freedom of Information and Personal Privacy Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Pashak, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill number 236, a bill to amend the Labor Relations Act. This act would serve to repeal that section of the Labor Relations Act that prohibits healthcare workers from taking strike action.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar has moved first reading of Bill 236, an act to amend the Labour Relations Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 236, an act to amend the Labour Relations Act, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill number 237, an act to amend the Employment Standards Code. Mr. Speaker, this act would tie an annual review of the minimum wage to the Consumer Price Index.
Member for Edmonton Belmont has moved first reading of Bill 237, an act to amend the Employment Standards Code. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 237, an act to amend the Employment Standards Code, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Sigurdsson, is now read the first time.
Edmonton Strathcona.
I beg to introduce Bill number 238, a bill to amend the Limitation of Actions Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill would remove the exceptionally short limitation period for the commencement of actions against doctors.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona has moved first reading of Bill 238, an act to amend the Limitation of Actions Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 238, an act to amend the Limitation of Actions Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Wright, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, beg leave to introduce Bill number 239, a bill called the Unfair Contract Terms Act. The purpose of this bill, which is consumer legislation, Mr. Speaker, is to make the fine print in consumer contracts answer to a test of reasonableness.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona has moved first reading of Bill 239, Unfair Contract Terms Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 239, Unfair Contract Terms Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Wright, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 240, a bill or an act to amend the Elections Act. The purpose and intent of this amendment would have the elections officer make it mandatory for party leaders to engage in a televised debate during provincial elections. Thank
you. The honourable order, please. Order in the galleries as well as on the floor. The honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry has moved first reading of Bill 240, an act to amend the Elections Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 240, an act to amend the Elections Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Decor, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Leave to introduce Bill number 241, Mr. Speaker, being a bill to amend the Law of Property Act. The purpose of this amending act would be to extend the definition of a time sales agreement in the Law of Property Act to remedy an injustice exposed recently in the courts.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona has mercifully moved the last of the bills for this afternoon, being 241 for first reading, an act to amend the Law of Property Act. No? There's one more. All members in favour of first reading for Bill 241, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 241, an act to amend the Law of Property Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Wright, is now read a first time.
Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Saving the best for last, I request leave to introduce a bill, number 242, an act to amend the VENCAP Equities Act. This bill would establish a seed capital fund to assist Alberta entrepreneurs in establishing new businesses.
The honourable member for Calgary Northwest has moved first reading to Bill 242, an act to amend the VENCAP Equities Alberta Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 242, an act to amend the VENCAP Equities Alberta Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Brusiker, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to file with the Assembly the communiques of the 29th Annual Premiers Conference held in Saskatoon last year.
Minister of Recreation and Parks.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to table 4 copies of 2 annual reports as required by statute. These being the 13th Annual Report of Alberta Recreation and Parks, the year ending March 31st, 1988, and the 11th Annual Report of the Recreation, Parks and Wildlife Foundation, year ending March 31st, 88.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table the 1987-88 annual reports for the Department of Advanced Education, University of Lethbridge, University of Calgary, and the Banff Centre for Continuing Education. Copies of these reports, Mr. Speaker, have already been provided to all members of the Assembly.
The Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to table the 1987-1988 annual return for the Department of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
I am pleased to table the report of the Chief Electoral Officer on the general election held March the 20th, 1989. Honorable Attorney General.
I would take pleasure in tabling the 1986-87 annual report of the Attorney General, and I would like at the same time to file the Legal Aid Society 1988 annual report.
Introduction of special guests.
The Associate Minister of Family and Social Services.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly a group of students from St. Gabriel School in the northern city of Fort McMurray. They're a class of 81 grade 8 students. They're accompanied by their teachers Marlene Cooper, J.P. Desaulnier, Art Zadney, and parents Monica Lomland, Sandra Villeneuve, Cecilia Ryan, Irene Stadnick, Jim Rogers, and Ivan Paul. They are seated in both galleries, or were, and I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, due to the time constraints, whether they had to leave or not, but I would ask them to rise and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly if they are still here.
Thank you. Member for Edmonton-Whitemont.
Mr. Speaker, through you, to members of the Legislative Assembly, I would like to introduce Terry Spencer, spokesman for injured workers. I would ask that you rise and give him the customary greetings.
The Associate Minister of Family and Social Services.
It's for another reason that I stand, sir. No. Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly a special group of Albertans. This is the start of Seniors Week, and to kick off this special week, many proud seniors, along with members of the Secretariat and Advisory Council, are seated in the galleries. Accompanying them is the former chairman of the Advisory Council and a past member of the House, Mr. Harry Alger. I would ask them all to rise and be recognized by the Assembly for the significant contribution to our society by the province.
For half a moment. The chair apologizes to the House with respect to the matter of introductions today because of the lengthy introduction of bills. And I know that members will have some difficulty conveying their own apologies back to various school groups, but perforce it's the function of the Assembly that must take precedence. In a moment, later on, we will invite the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services to bring to give recognition to the seniors in the galleries, because at the moment we're in this transition of having moved the school groups out. Now more of the seniors are coming in, so if the House will bear with us, we will make that one variation of procedure a bit later. Thank you. Okay.
Ministerial statements.
Speaker, as many government departments are responsible for coordinating seniors programs, I'm honored to be speaking on their behalf. I'm pleased to inform the Assembly that I'm officially proclaiming the week of June 4th to 10th, 1989, as the 4th Annual Senior Citizens Week. It is a time when all of us, young and old, will and should pay tribute to our pioneers and senior citizens. The theme of Senior Citizens Week, Mr. Speaker, is Seniors in Tune with the Times. And the purpose is to increase appreciation of senior persons and the contributions which they make to their communities, their families, and each other. Mr. Speaker, Albertans value the solid foundation our senior citizens have built for us. The government has demonstrated appreciation for the contribution of seniors through a number of significant programs over the last 18 years. Today, I would encourage all honorable members to recognize the valuable role that seniors continue to play in our society. Our senior citizens must be integrated into all our community activities. It is to the credit of senior citizens that they recognize they must take the lead role in making this happen. That, Mr. Speaker, is what Senior Citizens Week is all about. Active seniors in the community deserve our support and our thanks. And Mr. Speaker, I now notice that many of the seniors had the opportunity to assemble within the galleries. I would ask that they all rise and receive the cordial welcome response of this Assembly and the contribution they play to our province.
Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Leader, to take a seat for half a moment and we'll just wait. Thank you. Okay. The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Norwood, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In rising to reply to the ministerial statement, I certainly agree with the thrust that the minister has taken. I would say, though, to follow up on some of the statements that the minister has made, that the government still has some ways to go in terms of concrete actions. I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that in our province, we institutionalize more people than we do in the rest of Canada, and also Canada's rate compared to other Western democracies is very high, Mr. Speaker. It's not only expensive, but it's unfair. I think the minister would hopefully agree that we have to move towards freedom of choice, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we'll be watching the budget very carefully to see what we're doing, for instance, in home care, Mr. Speaker. I would point out that there should be also a social entry into home care. Many people could perhaps stay at home where they want to be, close to their families, if there's some help even for such things as mowing the lawn or snow removal, these sorts of things. Mr. Speaker, I think that that would make a lot of sense, and we'll look forward to directions from this government. I would also, Mr. Speaker, look forward to funding for Meals on Wheels. If we believe in the sorts of things, increased funding there, I know that'll be coming in the budget. Mr. Speaker, I couldn't agree more when the minister says our senior citizens must be integrated into all our community activities. It is to the credit of senior citizens that they recognize they must take the lead role in making this happen. Precisely, they're talking about some of the things that I'm talking about, and we better come to grips with it because I think we all recognize that we are in an aging society. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I certainly agree with the sentiment of the statement, and we'll be looking for concrete action come Thursday in the budget.
Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, over the last 5 years, provincial and federal governments have hit average Alberta families with almost $3,000 in new taxes, Mr. Speaker. And the recent federal budget is disastrous for Alberta, and it's disastrous for Alberta families. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the federal Conservatives are going to continue with their national sales tax. Now, Mr. Speaker, during the election, the Premier was walking around holding hands with Brian Mulroney, saying he was a great friend of Alberta. Then after the election, Mr. Speaker, he was going to fight the value-added sales tax, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier is an obvious one. Why didn't the Premier make this a very, very important issue during the campaign when he might have had some impact in stopping it?
Mr. Speaker, certainly not just during the election campaign, but for some time the province of Alberta has led the other provinces in resisting a national sales tax. You recall, I think all members would, Mr. Speaker, that once it was just Alberta who was in the battle against the national sales tax. But due to the efforts of the government of Alberta and certainly the provincial treasurer, we've been able to rally all provinces behind Alberta resisting a national sales tax, so much so that the federal government had to impose the tax rather than do it in conjunction with provincial governments.
Mr. Speaker, the point is they are doing it. And I haven't heard much from this Premier recently about it. They are imposing it, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier was, where were you during the federal election when you could have had some impact if you felt strongly about it? Where were you?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I said, the provincial government has been leading the battle against the national sales tax for many, many months.
Speaker, that's just not the case. Again, this government can't be trusted to stand up for Albertans when their federal party is in trouble, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Mr. Speaker, just recently we had the federal budget. I want to ask the Premier this. Why? In April, I knew he was a little busy in a Stettler by-election, but something as important as this, why didn't he speak out loudly and clearly against the sales tax at that particular time? Why was he silent on this issue?
I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member isn't listening to the answers. I've already answered that question. The government of Alberta was first to go on record against the national sales tax and has been able to pull all the provinces behind them.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, back to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. As mentioned earlier on, this is Environment Week. And on page 9 of the speech from the throne, another one of the government promises says Alberta will continue to exercise its jurisdiction over environment. Mr. Speaker, surely this Premier is aware that the federal government recently intervened in a Saskatchewan development because of deficiencies in that province's environmental impact assessment process. My question to the Premier, does the Premier not know that Alberta's present environmental impact assessment is deficient and it leaves Alberta wide open to federal intervention, Mr. Speaker?
Sure does.
Mr. Speaker, it might be if the honourable member's party had anything to say about it, but the government of Alberta will make sure that we maintain our jurisdiction in environmental matters.
Mr. Speaker, just like all the other hollow promises that we've heard from the government, let me give the Premier a hand here, because he certainly needs it in this issue, Mr. Speaker. We're seeing a difference, though, between, he should understand there's a difference between public relations handing out packages like that with answers to tell the department what to say and an actual process, Mr. Speaker. Will the Premier commit then today? Will he commit today to an independent environmental impact assessment conducted by the Environment Council of Alberta, which includes, number 1, public hearings for each project, number 2, funding for interveners, and 3, which is very important, a study on the combined effect on river systems and air quality of 7 major pulp and paper projects? Will he commit himself to this?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, with an answer like that, Mr. Speaker, the question I want to ask this Premier, then how can this Premier guarantee, as he has just done, that Alberta will continue to exercise its jurisdiction in the environment with this deficient EIA process? Is this another promise that they're going to cave in on, Mr. Speaker?
Looks like it.
Mr. Speaker, the deficiency is in the honourable member's mind, not mine.
The Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Friday, the provincial treasurer, I believe, misled the people of Alberta by insisting that the province's assets outweigh the liabilities of our province, just as the Premier is attempting to mislead Albertans during the electorate or during the last election with respect to his promise on taxes. Whether or not unfounded or unfunded pension liabilities are footnoted or not, they are still liabilities, Mr. Speaker. And if you add those liabilities to the huge deficit, there are greater liabilities than there are assets. Now, I ask the provincial treasurer, why does he continue to try to hide from Albertans this fact, the fact that our liabilities are greater than our assets?
Mr. Speaker, it strikes me that this question... Responding, Honourable Member. Chair is concerned that it's heard from various quarters, Honourable Member. I would caution the use of throwing about the term misleading because it's unparliamentary, and to call others to order if it arises in the future. Provincial Treasurer.
Speaker, as well, I believe I did deal with this question on Friday. The question really hasn't changed much from the response that I gave on Friday, and nor has the information I have, and nor has the position by the member from Edmonton Norwood. Sorry, it's Edmonton Glengarry, but their socialist policies are all the same.
This guy's in charge of our accounts.
Mr. Speaker, obviously the provincial treasurer, who is an accountant, isn't able to look at liabilities and assets like most people can. I'm wondering whether, in view of the financial statements of our province, whether he has had any representations made to him, or whether he has made any representations to rating agencies, because the province must go out and borrow money and must get rated, whether or not any representations have been made with respect to this matter, and whether the response from these rating agencies are in a negative way.
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, let me make it particularly clear that there is no attempt by the government to misstate or to understate the liabilities of the government. As I said on Friday, we have presented the information on the basis of accounting disclosure principles. That basis calls for consistent disclosure of the unfunded liability on a footnote basis. Those people who are familiar with financial statement disclosures understand that's the process, and Alberta, along with all other governments, in fact even the private sector in many cases, discloses this contingent liability on a footnote manner. Certainly the rating agencies understand the size of the liability, as does the province of Alberta. But we can still maintain our position that certainly Alberta, because of the Heritage Fund and because of the good fiscal management of this government since 1971 in particular, has more assets and liabilities, and in fact is the best financial position of any government in Canada right now.
Mr. Speaker, will the Minister, the Honourable Minister, accept my challenge and provide this House with figures which take into account the nearly $9 billion in unfunded pension liabilities carried by the citizens of this province, and which show Alberta enjoying a net asset position?
Well, again, Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the numbers are coming from. I think the member is inventing the outstanding liability. In fact, the information I have is that the unfunded liability this year has reduced somewhat on a year-over-year basis. Let me not mislead anyone, Mr. Speaker, by saying that the province doesn't understand the size of this problem and is not in the process of reviewing how it can correct this problem. To suggest otherwise would be not factual. We have, in fact, put in place a review process. We're working along with other departments who have the fundamental responsibility for pensions to look at ways of dealing with this unfunded liability.
Sure. Member for Wainwright, followed by Edmonton Centre, followed by Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture, and it's concerning the Crow benefit. The change of the method of payment has been a long and painfully slow process, but the present policy still strongly discriminates against our economic diversification here in Alberta. Could the Minister bring us up to date on the progress that has happened in the past few months and tell us what Alberta is doing about this problem?
Mr. Speaker, I would agree with the honourable member for Wainwright that it's been a long, painful process. But currently discussions are going on at two levels. We're still in discussions with the federal government changing the total method of payment across the prairies. And I fully expect that when the Federal Minister of Agriculture announces or releases his agricultural policy paper, probably in July, that issue will be addressed. I'm not sure in what way. At the same time, we're carrying on discussions with the province of BC and the Alberta Wheat Pool to develop the BC-Alberta pilot option, which would have the pay-the-producer concept introduced into the two western provinces. So we're still moving in both those directions.
Thank you. Will the present GATT negotiations affect Alberta's position?
No, our position hasn't changed as a result of the recent round of GATT discussions.
Will this have an effect then on our Crow offset benefit program that the province has?
I would hope that if we can achieve pay the producer, that the Crow benefit offset program, which remember that we put in place to counter that, if you wish, unfair subsidy that was working against value added, that program should be able to disappear if we can change the method of payment.
Member for Edmonton Centre, followed by Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Meals on Wheels is a proven health promotion program for seniors that relies upon hundreds of volunteers and very limited funds to get nutritious meals, and I might add even some emotional support to a growing numbers of seniors and shut-ins. In fact, the Edmonton board, staff, and volunteers have recently opened a new kitchen facility in my constituency and are struggling faithfully to get the necessary funds to keep up with the growing demand and the quality of their service. Given these essential health service that the Meals on Wheels provides, Mr. Speaker, how can the Minister of Health possibly make such a dreadful allegation that she will not advance them funds because seniors are abusing the service, or to use it, quote, only as a convenience, unquote?
I didn't make any such statement, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's been widely reported the minister wants to refute such allegations. Now's the time to do it. Will she produce publicly any documented evidence she has to support such claims that have been widely reported that abuse of Meals on Wheels is going on? And will she do the more honorable thing and advance them the kinds of necessary funds they need to improve their quality of service?
Tell the truth, Bill.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome an opportunity to clarify my comments with respect to Meals on Wheels, but as for making any comment with respect to abuse by seniors, that is certainly not the case.
Well, will the minister at least do a more positive action in this regard, which is to do as I did and go with one of the volunteer drivers one lunch hour, see the kinds of effective health care delivery that they're making to many seniors and shut-ins, see that it is indeed providing a very necessary preventative health care service which demands her further consideration and increased funding support.
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated, I welcome an opportunity to clarify my statements. I have absolutely no difficulty with the seniors who are being served by the very important Meals on Wheels program in our city and across our province. In fact, I think whether we're meeting the convalescent, or in other words, the medical needs, or the nutritional needs of seniors, those are important health priorities for this government. My concern is that there are overhead costs associated with the Edmonton operation, which are taking away from the need to add more seniors onto the program. That is a question I ask with respect to the freestanding facility in the honourable member's constituency. And in terms of funding that facility and the administration that costs, that is a concern that I have, and operating in a budget is something I think is important for all the Meals on Wheels programs in this province, especially the other 109 that operate within their budget.
Member for Edmonton Whitemount, followed by Edmonton Belmont, followed by Athabasca Lac-La-Biche.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, January the 3rd, a citizen of this province, who just minutes ago we gracefully welcomed in this legislative assembly, Mr. Terry Spencer, who is still up in the public galleries, was peacefully protesting difficulties he had with an agency of this government. He was forcibly removed from the steps of the legislature, taken into an alley nearby, not his home, and with belongings was dumped out next to a garbage bin. My question to the Minister of Public Works is, was this questionable action carried out with the minister's knowledge or under his direction?
Mr. Speaker, on the 20th day of March, all the men and women in this assembly were elected to represent various constituencies. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Speaker, all of us had an opportunity to swear an oath to uphold the laws of the province of Alberta. And it is with great regret that on late Saturday afternoon, that is the minister responsible for the enforcement of the Public Works Act, that it was my duty and responsibility to enforce Alberta Regulation 7684, which was gazetted on March 31, 1984. And according to the section of that particular act and regulation, Mr. Speaker, 61C, it indicates that no individual can take up habitation, temporary or otherwise, on Crown property. And in keeping with my responsibility as a member of this Legislative Assembly to uphold the laws of the province of Alberta, that action was taken. It was not, however, Mr. Speaker, taken in the manner outlined by the member from Edmonton Whitemud. It was done with dignity and it was done with decency.
Mr. Speaker, to the minister, would the minister please explain to this assembly and to the citizens of this province why there exists a difference in policy regarding who can and who cannot peacefully protest on the legislature grounds, as demonstrated Saturday with Mr. Spencer's removal, and last year with no action having been taken in regard to Mr. John Horlick, who demonstrated in the same fashion last year from April the 29th, 1988 to May the 12th, 1988.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that the honourable member should listen to the responses put forward to questions. And in question number one, I outlined that section of the Act and the regulation that was used, and it makes it very clear that no individual can take up habitation, temporary or otherwise, in Crown property in the province of Alberta. And I might point out, Mr. Speaker, that I have been the minister responsible for this particular Act for some period of time in the last 6 or so weeks, and that now comes into my jurisdiction. And I think it's important that the oaths that all of us take that all of us take as elected people to uphold the laws of the province of Alberta must be dealt with equally by all members of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, would the minister responsible for the Workers' Compensation Board undertake to meet privately with Mr. Spencer to resolve this issue as soon as possible, rather than allow this ridiculous situation that's occurring outside to continue, where a person is forcibly removed and threatened that he may be removed again this evening, despite the fact he has submitted a letter stating he is not...
Order, please, honourable member. It's a supplementary question. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've met twice with Mr. Spencer, and my door is open to him again. The last time I met with Mr. Spencer, I asked him to compile a number of questions that he had concerning his claim. He's done that. The Workers' Compensation Board has responded as late as May the 24th. And, Mr. Speaker, I haven't heard from Mr. Spencer or anybody else in regards to his case. And let me just say this, Mr. Speaker, that if the Workers' Compensation Board erred, then that error will be corrected. If Mr. Spencer can bring forward new information, then his case will be reopened. I might say today that his case is being reopened, and I welcome him to meet with me at any time he wishes.
The member for Edmonton-Belmont, followed by the member for Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the Minister of Career Development and Employment. Mr. Speaker, the federal Conservative government has recently announced changes that will cut tens of thousands of Albertans off of unemployment insurance. Now, Mr. Speaker, this draconian change is going to have devastating effect not only on those who are currently receiving unemployment insurance, but on employers and on the Alberta economy as well. I would ask the Minister, in light of the information, what action has the minister taken towards standing up for Albertans who are on unemployment insurance to oppose these changes?
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to note for the province of Alberta's perspective, we believe that people should be employed and our programs are so geared.
Well, that being the case then, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to direct a supplementary to the minister. The federal government has completed studies that outline the regional impact that such changes are going to have. And I would ask the minister, has she or any member of her department attempted to secure this document from the federal government?
Mr. Speaker, we have received some information from the federal government and also a guarantee for further consultation, particularly with respect to some of the new innovations that will work with the private sector in terms of training and other opportunities. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to note that the funds that will come forward as a result of the changes in the unemployment insurance are going to be reallocated to training programs, and surely that's what we all want, and those people to be equipped to go back to work.
We want most certainly to have retraining programs, Mr. Speaker, but not on the backs of workers. That's the point that has to be made. To the provincial treasurer, given that the provincial government is a large employer, it's going to have to substantially increase its contributions of the unemployment insurance premium. I'm wondering and there are also other attendant costs as well that are going to be associated with these cuts and changes. Can the provincial treasurer advise the Assembly what actions his department has taken to intervene in this matter, and also what the costs of these changes are going to be to the Alberta Treasury?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's true that the additional costs of unemployment insurance will be unloaded onto the province. I have expressed that concern with Mr. Wilson, the finance minister, not just in this area of unemployment insurance, but in other areas where the transfer of deficits to the province has taken place. I can't give you the number right now. We're in the process of calculating the cost, but perhaps sometime during the budget debates, I'd be glad to give some broad number of that amount.
Member for Athabasca-Lac-La-Biche, followed by Edmonton-Meadowlark, then Edmonton-Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, my question is directed to the Honourable Minister of Environment. As the Honourable Minister is well aware, Alberta Pacific Industries is proposing to develop a $1.3 billion pulp mill near the town of Athabasca in my constituency. Although we realize that this will create the badly needed jobs for the constituency, because we do run the highest rate per capita on welfare in my constituency, my constituents do have environmental concerns. We also realize that there is the initial environmental impact assessment study public meetings just been completed recently. My question to the Honourable Minister is, what is the next step in the process?
I don't think he knows either.
Well, I'll try. Mr. Speaker, the process is a very straightforward process, and it's a process that is currently under review, and this government is dedicated to refining and to doing what we possibly can to make sure that the process is absolutely right. With respect to what has happened thus far relative to the LPAC proposal, there has been an environmental impact assessment document prepared by the company. That document has been submitted for public consultation, a series of open houses and so on, not public hearings at this particular stage. The documents, along with the public input, will then be submitted to the Department of the Environment, for a deficiency review. Following that deficiency review, there will be a citizens review panel established, a review panel that will be selected from amongst the residents in the affected area. And that review panel will have the opportunity to conduct public hearings or to complete the process in any way, shape, or form it sees fit.
Yes, I would like to ask, what is the timeline of the next process?
Mr. Speaker, the timeline for the next process will be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks.
Edmonton Meadowlark, followed by Edmonton Mill Woods, and
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on May 15th, the Minister of the Environment stated that changes to environmental impact assessment legislation in this province were needed, but that he wasn't prepared to introduce such changes to this session of the legislature. That same day, he called upon Alberta Pacific to delay its public hearings, and believe it or not, Alberta Pacific said it wouldn't do that. To the Minister of Environment, could the Minister tell us why he wants to wait for such legislation, proper environmental impact assessment legislation, until long after the currently proposed pulp mills are underway and have escaped the scrutiny of a proper environmental impact assessment process?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think that the pulp mills are going to escape the scrutiny of any process. As a matter of fact, if the environmental requirements are not met, then it's simple, very simple. So simple that even the member of the opposition can understand. They won't get a permit. It's that simple. They won't get a permit to operate. Yeah. To determine the process, Mr. Speaker, to determine if the process is correct, Mr. Speaker, one has to assess what has taken place, what is taking place now, and to refine the process as need be. And I've given an undertaking to examine the process relative to the LPAC project, to determine if indeed the added step of the Citizens Review Board is the right process. I've given an undertaking also to discuss with my federal counterparts the environmental process that is carried on federally, to see how perhaps we can create some kind of a joint process. And this all involves, I think, careful study and a reasonable and responsible review. And just because the opposition says what they think is the right thing to do, that's not what I'm about to do at this particular time without having all the facts.
The minister is prepared to say no to this project, but he's not prepared to tell that company and make it stick, to tell that company to delay its public meetings. Who's supposed to believe that, Mr. Minister? Will the minister explain why? Will the minister...
With due respect, honourable member, you did indeed ask a question. The chair won't regard it that, but please, a succinct supplementary now.
Will the minister explain why, despite the fact that the company denied his request to delay their public hearings, that he is now still unwilling to change legislation so that he could require such a delay rather than have some company headquartered halfway around the world establish environmental policy for this province?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sort of confused. Maybe it's my first day or something, but Mr. Speaker, I'm really quite confused because I have never said that I am not. I have never
said. Order, please. Order. Order, please, honourable minister, as well. With regard to the House, especially with new members on both sides of the House, one usually does grant a little more courtesy than what's occurring at the moment. Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have never said that I wouldn't be unwilling to change legislation. I have simply said that I want to review the process. I want to look at the process. I want to make sure that the process that we have in place is inadequate before we make changes. It's the old adage, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. And if there are some legislative changes required, Mr. Speaker, we will be introducing those changes in due course.
Broke. It is broke, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in light of the minister's admitted confusion over his statements, his actions, his inactions, why will this minister simply not place a moratorium on those new pulp mill projects right now, assess that legislation, get that legislation in place in this legislature, approved by this legislature, and give himself some control over this process so that we can have a proper environmental impact assessment process in
Thank you for the succinct supplementary, honourable member. Honourable member, thank you for the supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in fact, the license to operate, and I'll repeat it, the license to operate will not be issued until all environmental concerns have been met to the satisfaction of the highest standards that have been established anywhere in the world relative to pulp mill development.
Edmonton Millwoods, and if there's time, Clover Bar, West Yellowhead, Calgary Buffalo, Cypress Redcliffe, Avonmore, and sundry other spots throughout the province. Edmonton Millwoods.
After months of demonstrations by injured workers on the steps of the legislature over the past year and the whole process of the Millard inquiry report that came out after that, Albertans were expecting from this new minister responsible for the WCB to show a little bit of leadership in terms of the appointment of new members to the board of directors. And what did we get last Thursday? We've got a board that was a whole lot more concerned about patronage appointments to their friends, Ken Poprosky and Ken Albrecht.
Order, please. Order, please, in the government benches. And we have the question. It's the main question. The member gets a chance to get a couple of sentences in before the question. In the meantime, honourable member, the chair is still standing. I'm sorry.
Nor a single representative from injured workers, the people who are supposed to be served by this agency. Why not? At least one on the board, Mr. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the legislation calls for 3 workers from industry, 3 from labor, and 3 from the general public. Last Thursday, we appointed 6 such people, 2 from labor, 2 from industry, and 2 from the general public. We left open 3 positions, Mr. Speaker, to make sure we get the right type of people to the board before the end of 1989. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the appointment of the members on the board, you look at the industries that have the highest rate of accidents. And in this case, it's forestry, construction, petroleum, mining. And so we moved with people that are general knowledge in those areas is very, very high. Now, to say to me that we didn't appoint somebody from this organization or that organization, I must confess, Mr. Speaker, that we had 200 names submitted. I took what I thought was the best people to fill in the positions that would do the job. Now, the member...
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Perhaps there's some ammunition left for supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, now that he's put in a lot of his friends there with those first six positions, can he give a commitment today that the other three positions will include representatives of the AFL and of injured workers if he's really serious about helping the injured workers of this province?
Mr. Speaker, I would hope that every member that's appointed is my friend, because I'm a friend of the injured. We intend to work, Mr. Speaker. The worker of this province has a caring minister, a fair minister, a minister that's going to use a lot of common sense, and a friend of the injured. So yes, if we're going to appoint 3 more, they will be friends of the ministers, because they all must be friends of the ministers to make this system work.
So they've all got to be orange and blue card carriers, I guess. But let me just ask this now. Since he hasn't got a single injured worker on the board, is he now saying to the injured workers of this province, and there are thousands of them now, that the only voice that they have is to have demonstrations on the legislature to camp out because you won't appoint them to a decision-making role on the board that affects them? Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Speaker, I've never looked at the cards of any member appointed to this board, and I guess what the member is suggesting that if the member is suggesting that there are members on the board appointed that carry a card different in orange and blue, they should be replaced. Is that what he's suggesting? Mr. Speaker, certainly I look forward to nominations from the injured worker, and if the honourable member has names to submit to me, he has until the end of the year. Let's have those nominations.
Honourable member for Mill Woods, that's not the appropriate way of carrying out your information in your submission of resumes. Thank you. At the end of question period. The member for Clover Bar, followed by West Yellowhead, then Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my understanding that there have been some ongoing discussions to establish a Canadian-Finnish business relationship, an initiative by our government for economic diversification. Would the Minister of Economic Development and Trade indicate to this Assembly the results of such discussion, or if there's an announcement that has been made?
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to confirm with the honourable member and recognizing the keen interest the honourable member does have in it, because it is going to be located in the county of Strathcona, and he was such an outstanding member of that council, to share with him that this morning the Petro-Canada and the Finnish Nesta Oy announced that they are going to be proceeding with a BT and MTBE plant in the county of Strathcona amounting to some $300 million, which will employ in excess of 100 people. And I offer my warmest congratulations to that group who is going ahead with it, plus the honourable member and the county of Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, since this plant and this announcement will impact somewhat directly on my constituency, I would like to know some information about the intended completion, the startup date for this plant, and some of the multiplier effect. It was mentioned that there may be some 100 employees, but those employees will also have a multiplier effect on my constituency.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is so correct, because the numbers of employees I mentioned will be the permanent employees when the plant is in production, which will be the latter part of 1991. There will be significant spin-off benefits through the construction of this plant, so the benefits are enormous, and we're delighted that again we see such a significant economic stimulus within the province of Alberta, again reinforcing the strength and the vibrance of the economy within the province of Alberta.
Member for West Yellowhead, followed by Calgary Buffalo.
Mr. Speaker, as a direct result of the subsidy cuts announced in the recent federal budget, Via Rail's revised 5-year business plan now calls for passenger rail services to be eliminated to approximately two-thirds. Services to such Alberta communities as Medicine Hat and Edmonton itself are on the verge of disappearing. My question to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, Mr. Speaker, is what, if anything, has the Government of Alberta done in the way of concrete measures to oppose these cuts and to let the federal government know that Albertans care about passenger rail service and want to see it maintained?
Mr. Speaker, we've made strong representation to the federal government with the hopes of maintaining what we consider such an essential service, especially as it relates to the tourism industry. Both the Minister of Tourism and myself have had numerous discussions. I just recently sent an in-depth letter to the Minister of Transportation at the federal level expressing our strongest concern and also asking for data as it relates to a cost analysis so that we can look at this in a very objective way with the hopes of saving what we consider a very crucial transportation system within this province.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Tourism. Given that the reports prepared by this government's own departments of tourism and economic development in 1984 and 1987 indicated that a lack of modernization in the passenger rail service in Alberta cost this province approximately $120 million in lost tourism revenue each year. Can the Minister tell us what he has done to pursue the matter in modernizing via rail services?
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that this concern has been brought in front of us, but it is not our responsibility, as we do not own the railroad, to spend money modernizing the equipment. It has been suggested that many times that modern equipment has to be looked at, and the 1954 vintage equipment that is being repaired and remodeled may not be the way to go. But very definitely we're waiting for the recommendations that are coming from the VIA management, and we look forward to them with anticipation because we know that the Vancouver, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary runs are two of the most viable operations that they have within the system.
Mr. Speaker, given the subservient nature of Via Rail's relationship to CN and CP Railways, can the Minister give us any indication that he believes this discriminatory situation has existed long enough, and joining the Democrats in the opinion that movement of people is just as important as the movement of freight? The Minister of Economic Development and Trade.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to reinforce what I indicated to the honourable member in his initial question, whereby we are going to very actively involve ourselves in doing everything possible to maintain what we consider a very essential transportation system within this province.
Calgary Buffalo, followed by Cypress Redcliffe, and then Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alberta regards itself as a leader in multiculturalism and standing up for the rights of minorities. Sikh Canadians who wear turbans as part of their religion should be able to serve in our police forces without being required to give up this part of the religion. And it's now time for the government to show leadership on this issue and to speak out forcefully in support of Sikh Canadians. I'm wondering whether the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism, who is responsible for supporting minority rights, is prepared to provide such leadership and speak out clearly in support of allowing Sikh Canadians to wear turbans and serve in our police forces at the same time.
Mr. Speaker, I'd be more than glad to speak out on behalf of the Government of Canada were I Minister of that government, but I am not, obviously, and if the honourable member is referring to the RCMP, then that obviously is a federal Crown responsibility. We do have some interest in maintaining fairness and equality, of course, and we'd be glad to address as a government our continued ongoing commitment to the policies of multiculturalism and, of course, of human rights.
No hands. Oh, wait. So Via Rail is a federal responsibility too, but we make representations. I'm wondering whether the Solicitor General, who's responsible for policing in Alberta, is prepared to support the right of Sikh Canadians to wear turbans and serve in police forces in Canada, whether they be national police forces or whether they be police forces right here in this province.
Mr. Speaker, it's my understanding, and possibly incorrect understanding, that the federal government had already made the decision that the Sikh religion, those belonging to it serving in the force, could in fact wear the turban. In responding to the media last week, I indicated that I understood the position of certain Albertans. I did not indicate that I sympathized with it, because that is not the case. I will be meeting with the Solicitor General of Canada Friday of this week and discussing it and ascertaining precisely what the position is in respect to the Sikhs' wear in regard to their religion, and report back to the House accordingly.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have 2 questions and no answers, and I'm wondering whether the Premier, who is the leader of this province and should set the tone for this province, is himself prepared to provide leadership on this issue and speak out clearly in behalf of the rights of Sikh Canadians in this situation.
Yes or no? Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Solicitor General just provided the member with the answer.
Thank you. Member for Cypress Redcliffe, followed by Edmonton M. Time for question period has expired. The chair has recognized the member. Do we have unanimous consent to complete his series of questions? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Cypress Redcliffe.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the provincial treasurer.
Show no mercy.
My question's related to the timing of the budget, Mr. Speaker, and the effect that it's had on municipalities in this province. And I wonder if the Treasurer can assure the Assembly that municipalities in this province, have they been shorted, or is it a longer stretch of time when they'd normally receive their grants because of the budget delay?
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I'm sure, will recall that in that period between the election and the time that we could convene the Legislative Assembly, we passed a special warrant as interim supply, and that special warrant, close to $4 billion, was used essentially to provide the transfers to universities, colleges, health centers, and municipalities. And I would remind the House, Mr. Speaker, that along with our practices historically, we tend to transfer those grants early on in the process.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Treasurer can assure the Assembly then that any municipality who feels that their funds have been delayed, if they approach him, he will see with haste that their funds are then transferred to them?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would certainly commit to do my very best at that, but I think now the process is in the hands of the legislature, and once we get the budget in place, I'll be bringing forward an interim supply bill which will replace the warrant along the traditional lines that we have done certainly in 1986. But I think it's fair to say, Mr. Speaker, that the commitments by this government, as outlined in the fall of 1988, 5% to municipalities, 5% to health, 5.5% to education in particular, are far above the contributions by other provinces to these local governments. We continue to ensure that they have the highest level of funding to ensure that Albertans get the best level of services. Despite the timing of the transfers, that commitment remains throughout the whole year.
Requesting the unanimous consent of the House with the extension of question period, the Chair neglected to add the information that subsequent from Friday's question period, the Minister of Health has information to give in reply to the member for Calgary McKnight, but since that member has now left the House, this will have to carry on until tomorrow. Thank you. We have one point of order which arose during question period. Edmonton Millwoods.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to cite Section 494 of Beauchesne, which reads in part that there should be no imputation of intentional falsehood, and I would suggest that's exactly what the minister responsible for the Workers' Compensation Board did in asking for us to submit names of people to the board, inferring that we had not done so, when in fact we had done exactly that a year ago when they were advertised.
494. The Chair's recollection of what the reply said was along the line that it wouldn't necessarily be construed that the Minister had said he had not received, but I understand that he was saying that he was still open to receive nominations to whatever board that was being mentioned at the time. It was the chair that intervened and was calling the member to order for basically for shouting back and forth across the House when we were in the midst of having a reply. So in that regard, perhaps Honourable Minister has a comment to make in that regard about the matter of resumes for submission.
Very quickly, Mr. Speaker, I asked the member to submit a name if he wished. I did not say I didn't receive any names. The 200 names that I received, I don't know which one would come from him, but if he's got somebody he thinks that would be a candidate for the board, let him submit it and take his chances along with the other 200 names.
Acceptable. Thank you. Now, there we Thank you. Now, we have some other interesting procedural concerns this afternoon with respect to Standing Order 40 and the very unusual circumstance of 3 requests under Standing Order 40, and then the unusual request, the further unusual aspect of all 3 motions dealing with substantially the same issue. Under Standing Order 40, we would then also, if all 3 were to be considered, we would have the interesting situation of one honourable member then having 3 motions on the order paper, which is contrary to another section of our standing orders. And so with regard to the 3rd motion, in the normal course of circumstances, it would have to have been sponsored by another member of that political party who does not have 2 motions on the order paper. So therefore, since that particular motion was sponsored by the honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry, and he already has 2 motions on the order paper, the 3rd one cannot be considered at this time. Under Standing Order 40, we would need to carry on, as it says, to the matter of unanimous consent, having heard the sponsor make the case with regard to it being a matter of urgent and pressing necessity. Therefore, the chair recognizes the Deputy Premier at this moment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking leave of the Assembly, unanimous consent of the Assembly, to discuss a motion which was placed before the Assembly verbally earlier. I would suggest, Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that all parties have submitted a motion of a similar nature, that in the course of debate on the first motion, all relevant points could very well be made. I would also suggest, in terms of the matter under consideration, that the terms of the motion that I presented to the Assembly are certainly broad enough to cover the issue we consider to be of concern, of not only to people involved, but also to people in our own province, and therefore I would suggest that it is in order and that I would ask for the unanimous consent of the Assembly to proceed with a debate on this issue and a resolution of that during the course of this afternoon.
Honourable members, under Standing Order 40, it does indeed read that the mover is the only one that makes the case, and that the chair must then put the case for unanimous consent as to whether the motion proceeds or not. If that is granted by the Assembly, then of course all members of the House have the opportunity to speak to the motion with the normal time constraints as supplied by standing orders. Are you prepared to give unanimous consent to this motion to proceed? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. Thank you. Sponsor of the motion first.
Speaker, I think copies should be available to members shortly, but I will read it into the record once again. Be it resolved that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta express its shock at the violent actions that were taken in Beijing and People's Republic of China and the extensive injury and loss of life that resulted from it. Respectfully request the Governor and Government of our sister province of Heilongjiang, with which we have had a special relationship for nearly a decade, in the areas of trade, investment, culture, science and technology, medicine, sports, and others, to take all possible steps to prevent any similar actions in Heilongjiang. and through his good offices in other parts of the People's Republic of China. Mr. Speaker, in moving this motion, I am sure that all honorable members of the Assembly will agree that this is not a matter of political partisanship that would impel any member to bring forward a motion of this kind. It is indeed with a great deal of personal sadness and shock that I have observed via television and through the news media, the print media, through reading what has taken place in the People's Republic of China. And as is inherent in this motion, there has been a special relationship developed over the past several years between the province of Alberta and the province of Heilongjiang within the People's Republic of China. The city of Edmonton is twinned with the city of Harbin. The city of Calgary is twinned with the city of Daqing, both within Heilongjiang. And as a result of that special relationship, and as a result of a number of visits that have taken place between members of the government of that sister province and people from all walks of life, both Canadians and Albertans are going to the People's Republic of China and vice versa. We have developed a greater understanding amongst our two nations. It's this fact that on the 16th of May, I had the occasion to host a luncheon at Government House in which I, as the minister responsible for federal and intergovernmental relations in our province, invited scholars who were attending universities and technical institutes within our province to that lunch. And of course we discussed the events then taking place in Beijing. The young students who are amongst us, and there are, I think, 400 students from the People's Republic of China now studying in our post-secondary institutions in Alberta. This year, and I can say that there have been many hundreds preceding them in the last decade since we formed a special relationship with respect to educational exchanges. There are some 20-odd students from Alberta now just recently gone to Heilongjiang to study Chinese, and these are just a few of the many Albertans who have done that. I mention that particular area because it was of great interest to me, having been Minister of Advanced Education and Manpower. Now, Mr. Speaker, when events of world significance take place, they form a lasting impression on the minds of people, no matter where they may be. One such event that has always lived in my memory was in 1956, when I was 21 years of age and a university student. The horrible events that took place in Hungary formed a lasting impression in my mind of what happens when governments take action against their own people. And whatever the reasons behind the events of recent days, and whatever the eventual outcome may be, I wanted to use this vehicle, and the legitimate vehicle, in that we have a special relationship with a province in the People's Republic of China, to express our concern to that government. I have been in touch with the Minister of State for External Affairs on 2 occasions today, and honorable members of this Assembly are no doubt aware that there will be an emergency debate in the House of Commons later today, at which time the Government of Canada and the representatives of all Canadians in the House of Commons will have an opportunity of discussing this issue and expressing the concerns of all Canadians. But it is appropriate, given the special relationship that we have with one of the provinces of the People's Republic of China, for us today to call upon that government to take all possible steps to prevent similar occurrences in that province. And hopefully, as I express in the motion before the Assembly today, through his good offices in other parts of the People's Republic of China, including Beijing.